Dubro Suspicion Files.
On the morning of February 13th, 2017, the scene at Kuala Lumpur International Airport 2, KLIA2, was just completely normal.
Right. It's the definition of mundane.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Noisy, crowded, totally anonymous. You have people running for budget flights, grabbing coffee.
And in the middle of all that, something happens that feels like it's straight out of a Cold War spy novel.
It really does. We're talking about a public execution of a dynastic heir.
Using a chemical weapon of mass destruction.
And one of the busiest airports in the world. The contrast is just staggering.
And that contrast, that juxtaposition, is really the whole point of the operation. The victim, a kind of portly, middle-aged guy, is traveling under an alias, Kim Chol.
But that wasn't his real name.
No, not at all. It was Kim Jong-nam, the estranged eldest half-brother of North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un.
So he was the biggest potential threat to the regime living outside of the country.
The most visible one, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the central question for us in this deep dive isn't just how they did it, because, I mean, we saw how they did it on camera. The real question is why. Why would the regime risk international condemnation, use a banned chemical weapon on foreign soil just to eliminate this one man in such a brazen and public way?
It suggests the threat he posed was, in their minds, huge and immediate.
Existential, yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The details we have from the investigative reports are just astonishing. From the timing of the attack, down to the second, to the bizarre costume of one of the assassins.
It's surreal.
So our mission today is to use the forensic evidence, the intelligence reporting, and really just try to understand what happened minute by minute. We need to figure out who this target really was, not just as a brother, but maybe as an intelligence asset.
And the weapon itself, the science behind it is terrifying.
Right. And then how the masterminds just walked away. We'll start with the anatomy of the attack, then get into who Kim Jong-nam was, the VX nerve agent, and finally the assassins and the North Korean handlers who just vanished.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's set the scene. KLIA2, Level 3 Departure Hall. It's just after 9:00 a.m. Kim Jong-nam is dressed pretty inconspicuously, a light blue blazer, slacks.
Just another traveler. He's at one of the self-checking kiosks getting ready for his flight to Macau. He blends in completely.
And that anonymity was obviously part of the plan.
Absolutely. The whole investigation hinges on the airport security footage, which is incredibly high quality. And what it captures is, well, it's horrifyingly clinical. You see the two attackers, 𝐏𝐃𝐂𝐃𝐒 and Do Ti-hwang, move in.
And their movement is perfectly synchronized, right?
Perfectly. First, you have Do Ti-hwang, who comes up from directly behind him. The CCTV footage shows her clamping her hands over his face and eyes. The entire motion, the attack itself, lasted 2.33 seconds.
2.3 seconds. That's nothing.
It's less than a heartbeat. And at the exact same time, the second woman, 𝐏𝐃𝐂𝐃𝐒, comes in from a different angle and also applies a substance to his face.
So it's a coordinated two-pronged attack.
Exactly. Designed to get maximum coverage, especially on his eyes and mouth, where the poison can be absorbed the fastest.
The speed implies an incredible amount of rehearsal.
Oh, this was drilled into them. But what happens next is just as important, and it became central to the prosecution's case later on.
What's that?
They don't linger. They don't walk away casually. They immediately retreat, and you can see them holding their hands up and away from their bodies.
Like they're trying not to touch anything.
Precisely. And they rush to two separate restrooms to wash their hands. That detail, that specific instruction to wash off immediately, was proof they knew they were handling something dangerous.
Even if they didn't know exactly what it was.
They knew it was toxic. Definitely.
And the poison itself worked just as fast as the attack.
Yeah.
Kim Jong-nam is, understandably, shaken. He stumbles over to an information counter.
Yeah, the reports say he was gesturing to his face, telling the staff, very painful in English.
He was then taken to the airport's medical clinic, but his condition just plummeted.
It was incredibly fast. The nerve agent was already taking over his system. Profuse sweating, seizures. He lost consciousness within minutes.
And he died. What, in the ambulance?
Yes, on the way to the hospital. He was dead within 20 minutes of the initial attack. That's a key feature of this weapon. It's designed for instant lethality. There's almost no time for medical intervention.
Now, there's one image from this whole event that everyone remembers, and it's just so jarring. The LOL shirt.
It's the detail that makes the whole thing feel like some kind of dark performance art.
It really is.
Yeah.
Do Ti-hwang, one of the assassins, is wearing this plain white sweatshirt with LOL laughing out loud in huge black letters across the front.
The symbolism is just surreal. A state-sponsored murder with the WMD carried out by someone wearing, internet slang for amusement. It perfectly played into the whole prank show defense they used later.
But that shirt wasn't just a bizarre costume choice. It became a critical piece of forensic evidence.
It was the cornerstone, really. Dr. Raja Subramaniam, who is the head of Malaysia's Chemical Weapon Analysis Center, testified about it. They found pure active VX nerve agent on the jumper.
On the shirt itself?
On the shirt and under her fingernails. That physical evidence, a cheap shirt contaminated with the world's deadliest chemical, just blew their cover story out of the water.
Okay, so to understand why Pyongyang would take such a huge risk, we really need to understand who this target was. Kim Jong-nam wasn't just some random person.
No, not at all. He was the exiled eldest son of the Paektu bloodline. And in North Korea, that lineage is everything. It's the source of all political legitimacy.
He was born in 1971, right? To Kim Jong-il and a mistress.
That's right, the actress Song Hye-rim. For a while, he was being groomed as the successor, but his childhood was very unusual for a future North Korean leader. He was basically raised in secret, hidden away from his grandfather, Kim Il-sung.
And he was educated abroad, which gave him a completely different worldview.
Totally. He went to school in Moscow and Geneva. He got a taste for, an open lifestyle, for technology, for things like gambling, all things that are completely at odds with North Korea's official ideology.
So he was never going to fit into that rigid system.
He really struggled to. That early exposure to the outside world created this political gap that could never be bridged.
Now, the story everyone knows is the 2001 Narita airport incident.
Yeah.
The reason he fell from grace.
Right, the Tokyo Disneyland story. He was caught trying to enter Japan on a fake passport because he wanted to take his family to Disneyland.
And that was a huge embarrassment for his father.
A massive embarrassment. But the source material we have suggests it was more of a convenient public excuse. The real problem was much deeper. It was ideological.
So what was the real threat? It wasn't just about Disneyland.
No. Intelligence reports say he was becoming more and more critical of the regime's policies. He was advocating for Chinese-style market reforms, which is absolute heresy in Pyongyang.
So he went from being an embarrassing playboy to a genuine political alternative.
Exactly. As the eldest son, his very existence challenged Kim Jong-un's legitimacy, especially for the old guard who value that kind of thing. The fear was that if the regime ever became unstable, a foreign power, probably China, could prop him up as a replacement.
And he wasn't quiet about his criticisms either.
Not at all. He was talking to journalists. He famously told a Japanese journalist, 𝐏𝐻𝐃𝐂𝐀𝐒, that the whole hereditary succession thing was a joke to the outside world. For a regime built on a cult of personality, that's unforgivable.
So he's living in exile, mostly in Macau and Beijing. It sounds comfortable, but he was really living on borrowed time.
Extremely borrowed time. His safety basically depended on the Chinese government, who were happy to keep him around as a potential pawn against Pyongyang.
But his protection within the North Korean elite was gone.
It evaporated. When his uncle, Jang Sung-paek, was executed in 2013, that was it. He lost his last powerful protector inside the regime.
And there had been other attempts on his life before this.
Oh, yes. South Korean intelligence said there was a standing assassination order on him since 2011. There was a failed attempt in 2012. And after that, the reports say he actually wrote a letter to Kim Jong-un begging for his and his family's lives.
Wow.
So by 2017, the calculation in Pyongyang had clearly changed. They decided the risk of killing him was finally worth it.
So that's the political motive.
Mm-hmm.
But the story gets even more complicated. There's a strong suggestion he wasn't just a passive exile. He might have been an active intelligence asset.
This is where it shifts from a family drama to a full-blown spy thriller.
Right.
The evidence for it is pretty compelling. So, Kim Jong-nam arrives in Malaysia on February 6th. The key event happens 4 days before he's killed on February 9th.
The meeting in Langkawi.
Exactly. He travels to this resort island specifically to meet with an American man at a hotel.
And do we know who this American man was?
Well, Japanese media and the Wall Street Journal later reported that he was a Korean-American intelligence officer, almost certainly connected to the CIA.
So the whole trip to Malaysia, a country where he had less protection than in China, was probably for this meeting.
It seems like that was the entire purpose of his trip. He wasn't there for a vacation. He was there to do business.
And the contents of the backpack he was carrying when he died, they tell a story all on their own.
They really do. First, there's the cash. $124,000 in U.S. currency.
All in $100 bills.
Right, in 4 neat bundles. Now, he was a known gambler, but the timing Right after this meeting with the suspected CIA agent, it looks a lot like a payment for information.
And the electronics, a laptop and a USB drive.
Also crucial, forensic analysis showed they were both accessed on February 9th, the day of the meeting. He was either delivering or receiving data right then.
But the third item is the most chilling. It's the one that proves he knew he was in danger.
It's the tragic irony of the whole thing. He had 12 vials of atropine in his bag.
And atropine is what exactly?
It's the specific antidote for nerve agent poisoning. It's the medicine you would use to counteract the effects of something like VX.
So he knew. He knew they might come for him with a chemical weapon.
He not only knew there was a threat, he knew what kind of threat it might be. He was carrying the cure for the very poison that killed him.
But the poison worked so fast, he never had a chance to use it.
Never got the chance. He died just a few feet away from the backpack, containing his only hope of survival. It's an absolutely tragic detail.
Let's talk about the weapon itself, because the choice to use VX is what makes this an act of state terrorism.
It is. VX is classified as a weapon of mass destruction under the Chemical Weapons Convention. North Korea never signed that treaty, of course, but it's banned almost everywhere else.
What makes it so different from other chemical weapons? What does it do?
Well, physically, it's an amber-colored, oily liquid. It's odorless, tasteless, so you can't detect it.
Yeah.
But the key property for this assassination is its low volatility.
Meaning it doesn't evaporate quickly.
Exactly. Unlike sarin gas, which disperses into the air, VX is persistent. It stays where you put it, like motor oil.
Which is perfect for an attack in a crowded place if you only want to hit one target.
Perfect for a contact-based assassination. You don't poison the air, you poison the person. The oily agent stays on their skin and gets absorbed.
And how does it kill you? What's the mechanism?
It attacks your nervous system.
Yeah.
Basically, a chemical in your body called acetylcholine tells your muscles to contract. An enzyme then breaks it down to let the muscles relax. VX blocks that enzyme.
So the muscles just keep contracting.
Uncontrollably. You get spasms, seizures, and then your diaphragm, the muscle you use to breathe, becomes paralyzed. You die of asphyxiation.
But you don't need much of it.
A single drop is lethal. The dose they found on Kim Jong-nam's face was about 1.5 times the lethal amount.
Which brings us to the big question. How did the two women who smeared it on him survive?
Yeah.
They used their bare hands.
Right. For a long time, the prevailing theory was the binary weapon theory. It's an elegant idea.
What's that?
The idea is that each woman had a different non-lethal chemical precursor. When those two precursors mixed on Kim Jong-nam's face, they reacted instantly to create VX.
So the women themselves never actually handled the deadly agent.
In that scenario, no. It would have been the perfect way to do it. But the forensic evidence didn't quite line up.
How so?
Dr. Subramaniam, the chemical weapons expert, testified that he found pure VX on Don Ti-Huang's shirt and nails. Not the precursors, but the finished product.
So they did handle pure VX. How is that possible? How did they survive?
It was a race against time and a quirk of anatomy. The skin on your palms is much thicker than the skin on your face. It slows down absorption.
Oh, okay.
They were trained to apply it and then immediately run to a bathroom and wash their hands thoroughly. By washing it off within minutes, they removed most of it before a lethal dose could get into their bloodstream.
So the hand washing wasn't just evidence, it was their survival protocol.
It was the only thing that saved them. They still got sick, they reported vomiting, but they survived.
The science is fascinating, but the human aspect of this, the use of these women as proxies, it's just so cruel.
It's the most cynical part of the entire operation. You weaponize the hopes of vulnerable migrant workers and turn them into disposable assassins.
And it gives the real agents perfect cover to escape.
Perfect plausible deniability. They leave behind two women who can genuinely claim they thought it was a prank.
So let's look at Siti Aisyah, the Indonesian woman. How was she recruited?
She was a young mother working as a masseuse in Kuala Lumpur, trying to send money home. She was targeted specifically because she was vulnerable.
And the story they told her was about a reality TV show.
A YouTube prank show, yeah. A scout introduced her to a man calling himself James, who was actually a North Korean agent named Ri Ji-woo. The job was to run up to strangers and smear baby oil on their faces for a camera.
And they had her practice this over and over.
For months. They'd take her to busy shopping malls, have her perform the prank, and pay her about $100 a day. From her perspective, she was getting paid to become a minor celebrity. It was a dream come true.
And the other woman, Don Ti-Huang, she had similar aspirations for fame.
Even more so. She had auditioned for Vietnam Idol. She had this online persona. Her desire for the spotlight made her a perfect target. She was recruited in Hanoi with the exact same prank show story.
So they were both psychologically conditioned to perform this one specific action.
Meticulously trained. They knew how to approach, how to apply the substance, how to run away. The muscle memory was there.
Then on the day of the assassination, the handlers just made a switch.
They swapped the harmless baby oil for lethal VX, and then they gave them that one critical instruction: wash your hands right after. The women thought it was just for the show. In reality, it was the command that kept them from dying alongside their target.
The masterminds themselves, the actual North Korean agents, they executed their part flawlessly too.
This was a top-tier operation, almost certainly run by the Reconnaissance General Bureau, the RGB.
Which is North Korea's main foreign intelligence and special ops unit.
Their elite spy agency. This was sanctioned from the very top. We know the identities of several of them. Riju, or James, recruited Sidi. Then you had the 4 handlers on the ground who oversaw the attack.
Mr. Y, Mr. Chang.
Right, aliases for Ri Ji-hyun and Hong Song-hak and 2 others. They were the ones watching from a cafe in the terminal.
So they had eyes on the whole thing.
Oh, yeah. And as soon as Kim Jong-nam stumbled away, they started their escape plan. They were on pre-booked flights out of Malaysia before the police even knew a murder had occurred.
That level of coordination just screams state-sponsored.
Absolutely. They didn't leave anything to chance. Their escape route was complex through Jakarta, Dubai, Vladivostok, and then back to Pyongyang. By the time the world realized what had happened, they were long gone, untouchable.
This was such a brazen attack on Malaysian soil. The diplomatic fallout must have been immediate.
It was a complete meltdown. These are 2 countries that actually had pretty friendly relations, even a visa-free travel agreement.
And North Korea's first reaction was just total denial.
Aggressive denial. They insisted the victim was Kim Chol, that he died of a heart attack, and that Malaysia was conspiring with South Korea to frame them.
But Malaysia's government initially stood its ground, right? They refused to hand over the body.
They did, which infuriated Pyongyang. Tensions escalated. Malaysia kicked out the North Korean ambassador. North Korea kicked out the Malaysian ambassador. But then Pyongyang made an even more extreme move.
The hostage situation.
Yes. They barred all Malaysian citizens inside North Korea embassy staff and their families, 9 people in total, from leaving the country.
They just held them hostage.
Essentially, yes. It was leveraged to force Malaysia to do 2 things. Hand over Kim Jong-nam's body and let the North Korean suspects who were hiding in their embassy in Kuala Lumpur go free.
That's an impossible position for Malaysia to be in.
Yeah.
Justice versus the lives of your citizens.
A brutal choice. And in the end, Prime Minister Najib Razak chose his citizens. A deal was made at the end of March 2017.
What was the deal?
The 9 Malaysians were allowed to come home. In exchange, Kim Jong-nam's body was flown to Pyongyang, and the North Korean agents hiding in the embassy were allowed to leave Malaysia without being questioned.
So the masterminds got away completely.
Scot-free. North Korea used human shields to secure impunity for an act of chemical terrorism.
And the 2 women, Sidi and Doan, were the only ones left to face trial for murder, which carries a mandatory death penalty in Malaysia.
They were facing the ultimate price.
Yeah.
The prosecution argued they were trained assassins. Their defense was simple. We were pawns. We were scapegoats.
They pointed to the prank videos and the fact they didn't wear any protective gear.
Right. Their argument was, who would knowingly handle VX with bare hands unless they were completely tricked?
And after 2 years, the trial ended in a very unexpected way.
A stunning way. After a huge amount of diplomatic pressure from Indonesia, Malaysian prosecutors just dropped the murder charge against Siti Aisyah. No public reason given. She was freed immediately.
Yep.
She ended up taking a plea deal for a much lesser charge, causing hurt by dangerous weapons. With time served, she was released a couple of months later.
So in the end, nobody was held responsible for the murder.
Nobody. A man was killed with a WMD on foreign soil, and the case was essentially closed through political deal-making, not through the justice system.
But the story didn't completely end there. The assassination actually sparked a new chapter in this dynastic struggle.
It did, because Kim Jong-nam had a son, Kim Han-sol, a young man educated in the West who immediately knew he was the next target on the list.
So what did he do?
He reached out to a dissident group called Free Joseon, which is dedicated to overthrowing the Kim regime.
And they tried to get him out.
They launched a full-blown extraction operation led by an activist named Adrian Hong and a former U.S. Marine, Christopher Ahn. Their goal was to get Kim Han-sol and his family out of Macau to safety.
I remember this part of the story led to a standoff in an airport, right?
A 36-hour standoff in the Taipei airport. And according to testimony from Christopher Ahn, during that time, CIA agents showed up and tried to take custody of Kim Han-sol.
So the U.S. saw him as a valuable asset.
A potential heir, a living alternative to Kim Jong-un. He was incredibly valuable geopolitically.
And what happened? Who did he go with?
In the end, after a lot of negotiation, Kim Han-sol chose to go with the CIA. He was taken to a safe location, probably in the U.S. or the Netherlands, and hasn't been seen publicly since.
So the regime's plan to wipe out that entire branch of the family didn't quite succeed.
Not entirely. But their global reach is still a threat. Free Joseon later raided the North Korean embassy in Madrid.
An incredibly bold move.
Very. And the regime's response shows how long their memory is. Christopher Ahn, one of the rescuers, was later arrested in the U.S. in connection with that raid. During his court hearings, the FBI confirmed that North Korea has an active kill order out for him.
So the threat is still very real.
Global and ongoing, they are determined to eliminate anyone who challenges them.
When you look back at this whole operation, the thing that stands out is just the chilling efficiency of it all.
It's brutal. They took out their target, they used hostages to get their agents home, and they manipulated 2 innocent women to do the dirty work. Strategically for them, it was a success.
And the evidence left behind? It's like a time capsule of the whole event.
It is. The VX on the LOL shirt, the $124,000 in cash, the unused atropine antidote in the backpack. It's a snapshot of a man who knew he was in danger but was ultimately caught in this web of family politics and global espionage.
So what does this whole saga tell us? What's the big takeaway?
I think the most disturbing takeaway is that using a weapon of mass destruction in a public airport, an act that should have triggered a massive unified international response, ultimately didn't.
The masterminds got away. The proxies went home.
And North Korea basically got away with it. There were some sanctions, but no real painful consequences. So the question we have to leave you with is this. What does this outcome reveal about the limits of international law when a rogue state is determined enough to break it? The lesson Pyongyang learned here seems to be that calculated brutality, even with WMDs, works. And that is a very dangerous lesson to have learned.